I suppose climate change affects everybody. Everybody should be concerned, but more so the gender perspective to it, because women have different interests. When it comes to gender, we have different roles to play. Specifically in the African context, you realize that women have their way of doing things, men have their way of doing things. So when it comes to gender, you have to pay particular attention to these differences in terms of interests, because we have different interests, we have different rules, we do things differently. I've been looking at food security and gender with respect to climate change. In Ghana, we have a lot going on in terms of agriculture, and you realize that there are different roles, like I mentioned initially. When it comes to agriculture, the practices, we have roles for men, roles for women. So my work specifically looked at the behavioral changes, what the lifestyles changes in practices with respect to climate change, how men and women are reacting differently to climate change. So if you narrow it down to agriculture and food security, you realize that if you take the agriculture practices, for example, women will be more involved in the post-harvest issues as opposed to men who are more involved in the production aspect. So when you look at the post-harvest issues, things like processing of our food items from production, well, women would have to look into ways and means of learning technologies that will help them adapt more to the climate change issues and how it affects their processing activities. Again, you look at off-farm activities, because the agriculture sector is being impacted negatively. People are looking for off-farm activities, what they can do to supplement their livelihood. So for example, if we take the women again, women are looking at what other income generating activities they can involve in order to make a living. So for example, if you take a woman will be more interested in things that are more, closely related to her role as a woman, as a caretaker of the home, because a man can leave the home to another region altogether if the piece of land he is working on is being affected or is being eroded by way of climate change. The man can leave totally to another place, but the woman will have to care for the home. So the issues here are not the same for the woman and the men. I think that when you talk about gender and issues of climate change, we need education. In fact, more often than not, we tend to think that when you say gender, it's just about the woman. Okay, but I think that we have to move a step ahead and also think about what men think about women. Okay, if you need a woman to change, sometimes you look at the family setting and you must get the husband to understand the issues involved. You cannot just, deal with the woman. Okay, though the woman is an individual, because of power relations when it comes to decision making, you have to make this the whole family understand why you need to do that, why women will have to get involved in such and such adaptive measures as opposed to what the man can do. So it boils down to education, educating people, for people to understand that when it comes to issues to do with climate change and development, there has to be gender sensitivity so that you know how to deal with men and women in their own, respective ways, so that there wouldn't be conflict. We need to understand each other, and education is key. Women will have to understand their situations. Men will have to understand their situations. And then the need for collective action. Once we understand where each person is, we can work together, because I think that the issue we have at hand needs a collective solution. But then individuals have their own capacities when it comes to men, women. But we need to understand the framework that we are working in, so that in the end we can make a sustainable, move towards solving climate change issues.